Hi there, everyone. It's a Friday baseball algorithm update. How is it going? I've updated the MLB algorithm for today. Only today and tomorrow is the last day that I'm doing the MLB algorithm for a while. I'm definitely taking a break. I'm going to work on some other things. I'm working on just a project about like molecular biology and analysis of cellular design and things like that. And I just am not going to have any time to worry about baseball other than maybe at the end of the day running this thing and seeing what it spit out. But I'm going to be focused on other things. So if you need to do it yourself, I'm kind of trying to explain in these videos some of the processes I go through. But this is extremely complicated. You're working with a framework that I've built, and it's working under the way my brain works, which hopefully exposes itself in a manner that you can digest as well. But you're working with the way I programmed it, and I can't maintain this because it's just too much to handle along with everything else I'm working on. So today, what's going on? I did some work to adjust pitcher stats to get a more optimal look at what the order of the teams are supposed to be for today. Meaning, I looked at what pitcher stat year we are working with. And certain pitchers have really, really high ERAs in 2022, like Zach Thompson on Pittsburgh. He's pitched 10 innings this year, and his whip is ridiculous, and he's got an ERA over 10. That's not a great thing to use for the calculations to figure out how he might pitch today because it's super limited, and although he pitched poorly, that's really, really ridiculous, and that number's not going to stand there for the whole season. So if you go back to last year, you see he was a better pitcher last year. His record wasn't great, but his ERA was down at 3.2 and his whip was at 1.2 instead of what it shows this year. So I spent the time to go through and try to adjust those pitchers with crazy ERAs. I mean, Spencer Howard, he's even crazier in 2022. He's at a 9.7 last year. He's at a 14 for this year. So this game gets even worse. And Atlanta's a really big pick because this pitching is brutal. And the bullpen ERA for Texas is also bad. So I'm surprised this line is only at minus 130. I don't even get that. It's because Ian Anderson also has a high ERA. So point is I adjusted the pitcher stats where I think I could and to make this optimal, and it results in something like this. And one thing that I'm continue to discuss and say, what the algorithm is supposed to do is the algorithm is supposed to pick winners. Supposed to pick winners. I'm not going to worry about runs and over-unders. I'm just going to not even discuss that anymore because I just don't want to talk about runs. I want to talk about winners because that's what the algorithm is supposed to do. And yesterday it did a good job of that, and it's what it's designed to do. So these teams are supposed to win in the order that it says. It says the Angels beat the White Sox. It says the Dodgers. It says Atlanta, obviously, right there. It says San Francisco over Washington. This is Colorado over Cincinnati. Has a AAA pitcher in Kyle Bradish. So that's a AAA pitcher. He's pitching very well in AAA, as you can see right here. Bradish is a AAA. He's got great AAA stats, but this is the majors. So you got to be careful about that game. Not Brash. It was Brash and Bradish today. Bradish, you got to be careful. I can see why that's an underdog line, but it tells you don't run around taking Boston, think that Boston's going to beat Baltimore like normal because this guy's a good AAA pitcher. So we'll find out what happens there. But games with big margins, you can see the color coding of the margins. These four are supposed to be really solid picks. That's should be almost parlay material with margins this high up there. All of these margins above 10 are supposed to be really good, but watch out for Baltimore because of the AAA pitcher. So you've got picks up here. I mean, how many do you go with? How many am I going to go with today? Dodgers let me down against Arizona 2 games in a row, and they're at minus 235. So because this line is bad and the streak of the Dodgers, I have streaks here. The streak of the Dodgers is, where are the Dodgers? Where are you, Dodgers? Sometimes I can't see. There you go. They're still 57% over the last, we're looking at 10 days. I almost want to shrink this streak number down even less. You can make it less than 10 days by changing the number up here. But you can see the Dodgers were playing great, and then they lost a couple games to Arizona. But now they're at home. I mean, they're at home now, so I mean, look, it's really picking. That's a big game. What about Tyler Anderson's last year stats? It's still a big game for the Dodgers. But Tyler Alexander on Detroit has terrible stats this year. That's why. Yeah, I mean, if you leave the 2022 stats in there for both of them, I think the Dodgers move up to number 1, right? So I can see why they're so heavily favored. The pitching matchup is a different story on Detroit today. So you've got these picks up here. The fact that the Angels are plus 114, let's dive into that and make sure that is okay to have an underdog up there with such a good line and so heavily favored. Well, let's see what's going on. That's this game right here. Syndergaard has been pitching phenomenal this year. 2-0, really low WHIP, low ERA. His other stats are from a few years ago, but it's Giolito, who's still a good pitcher. What about last year's Giolito stats? How about that? What does that do to that game? That is still showing that Syndergaard beats them. So how about we use older Syndergaard stats? We got to go back to 2019, I think. Yeah, 2019. It's still an Angels win of 5-3. So a lot of confirmation that Syndergaard, if he doesn't outpitch Giolito, he pitches well enough, and the Angels' offense with this really huge lineup factor of 4.2 and the higher ERA factor of the White Sox, because how far does Giolito actually go, that all those together result in an Angels win. So I'll confirm what the algorithm said there, and the Angels are up there. I want to say, what do you take, right? What am I going to take today? Because I'm going to throw a lot together in a round robin. And you're supposed to not get that complicated and just cut this thing off at, we said this is a AAA pitcher, so shouldn't really do that. But all this other stuff, you could be careful with Colorado and Cincinnati, because Sensatella is not a good pitcher. What happens if you mess with that Colorado-Cincinnati game and change the year's pitchers here? Because there's a bad whip for Sensatella this year. You can't do it for Hunter Green last year. Is Hunter Green AAA? Yeah, okay, Hunter Green's last year was AAA. In this scenario, Colorado still beats Cincinnati. And the margin is still there. So, all right, I don't want to argue with the algorithm when it's consistent. So that would say that you can take 1, 2, 3. You got bad lines for the Dodgers in San Francisco, so it makes you want to take the -1.5. The Dodgers are home, and San Francisco's home. So if you're one of those people who only likes home teams, you're supposed to take these 3. Dodgers, or I shouldn't say those 3. You're supposed to take all the way down here, but you got to watch out for Baltimore because of the AAA pitcher. So that's Mets, St. Louis, Colorado, San Francisco, and the Dodgers. That's an interesting idea just for home teams. As for all teams, Dodgers, Angels, Atlanta, San Francisco, we were okay with Colorado. Yankees over Kansas City, I haven't looked into that game. I'm using last year's stats for their pitchers. Let's see what happens when we use this year's stats for the Yankees pitchers, because there are really high ERAs here. Yeah, there's a 14 ERA for Bubic. Yeah, that's what's screwing stuff up, and that's what makes this crazy for the Yankees and why that line is so bad. And that's why I changed this to 2021 stats, is I wanted to get something a little bit more reasonable and not have the Yankees supposed to score a ton of runs because of that really high current year ERA for Bubic. So, there's a lot of reinforcement and reason to think that these 8 picks, are going to win. Of course, anything can happen, but those are pretty solid. And then San Diego against Pittsburgh, because Zach Thompson's current season ERA is terrible, it makes this game ridiculous if you look at current season Zach Thompson. Even with last season Zach Thompson, it's still barely a win in a 13% margin, a run and a half barely that they win by. So San Diego's takeable here at this 13% margin because the Pittsburgh pitcher is worse this year. Then this is a tough game. Miami's been playing well, and Seattle can be okay. So I understand why this game is all the way down here, and that's where I'd cut it off. So you actually got 9. These are 9 winners. I might do the $5 9-team parlay. Just for reference, yesterday I did a 10-team parlay, and I got 9 right. I only missed the Guardians yesterday. Screw me. I had Houston, Toronto, San Diego, Miami, St. Louis. I didn't mess with this Philadelphia-Colorado game because of the weird thing that was going on. I had the Yankees. I had Minnesota. I had Kansas City plus 1.5, and they only lost by 1. Oh, no, they won. Yeah, Kansas City won. I had them plus 1.5. Freaking Cleveland plus 1.5 was the one I lost. I had Atlanta, and I had Milwaukee who came back to win. 9 out of 10. So today, it's funny because it says take 9 teams, right? According to what I just said. Can we zoom in? I said Dodgers, Angels, Atlanta, San Francisco, Colorado, Yankees, St. Louis, Mets, San Diego, and that was 9 teams. Yep. So I will throw those 9 on a parlay. It probably pays like $700. We'll see what happens and see if those 9 win. Good luck, everybody. May all your picks be winning.